Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Rendezvous with Anza Saqib on CxO Global TV. CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all C levels across the globe who are not only domain experts but key thought leaders who are contributing to the global knowledge economy. We take massive pride in this. And today, as well, we've got a very special member with us, Mr. Ibad Rehman. He's the director for new verticals at Food Panda. Yes, you heard that correct. The legendary Food Panda. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Ibad.
Hey Anza, good to see you.
So, tell us a little about yourself and how did you end up working for Food Panda?
I think it's a bit of an interesting journey because previously all my experiences with a bit more, let's say, more conservative traditional organizations. I started off in oil and gas with Shell, and then I landed into automotive industry. I worked a bit in hardcore brick and mortar retail stores as well, and then this was across multiple essentially in Pakistan, Middle East, including Dubai, Oman, as well as Saudi Arabia. And eventually, I had to plan to come back because of personal family reasons. So when I came back to Pakistan, I did a brief stint in brick and mortar retail with Spar. And I think some of my experience with convenience or impulse distress retail, which is more along the lines of, let's say, petrol marts, etc., was something that Food Panda felt was very relevant to some of the expansions that they wanted to do. So what they wanted to do was to foray outside the restaurants business, as well as look into कि अब जब COVID आ चुका है and the trends are accelerating towards online grocery purchases as well. So they wanted to have someone who came with that previous retail background.
Right. Absolutely. What an interesting journey. And so, what is your personal vision and goal, not just for Food Panda, but even about your life?
So I think from a personal goal perspective, it is very important for me to be building things. I typically try to be in an environment or to land roles, for example, whereby I'm able to start or something new altogether and build something from scratch ideally, or to be in a situation where something like a ship needed to be seized from shipwreck and to turn it around. So unless it's a turnaround opportunity, it's typically not something that excites me. So that is a personal motivation to be operating in one of those two areas, either growth or turnarounds. And then in the process, to be able to work with great people, young people, and to be able to develop them in the process. Uh, Give them some skill sets that they might not have seen, but also to work on their professional development and growth in the process.
Great. What inspires you? What motivates you to get up for work every single day?
I think a lot of it has to do with being in the center of something which is not just a trend, but something which becomes part of every daily life. I think one of the things that has been very important to me has been to work in a space whereby you are able to somehow improve quality of life for people. And the way I see it is, and what really inspires me to get up in the morning is that as we see, a lot of life is changing, even without COVID. If you look at it, a lot of family structures, even in Pakistan, are changing, whereby more and more couples are dual family working couples, where both the spouses are working, etc. And to be in a space whereby we can make something as boring as groceries, get out of the way and not bother and hassle people. I think that's very, very interesting for us. People should be able to focus either on their personal or professional lives rather than be bogged down by something so trivial. So anything that you do to provide convenience, to remove that kind of hassle or boredom from life, I think that is the space that really interests and excites me.
Right. Great. Now, one of the issues that Pakistan uh, has seen is a very big gap between industry academia linkages. How do you feel this can be addressed?
I think when it comes to the gap between industry and academia, of course, one thing is a bit more short term, and something is a bit more on the longer term side of things. So I think that unfortunately, while academia has done a lot of great stuff, I strongly feel that it has somehow contributed to elitism in society. I mean, I look at myself as some kind of classic example as well, whereby going to leading institutions has always been important to me. But now when I look at it retrospectively, not that they did not contribute to my development or my upbringing, but it's that many of the opportunities that I had access to, that access only came because I had been in certain institutions. And I don't think that that should be the case for most people. I think it's got to do a lot with how even not just academia, but more importantly, the professional sector views people. And when you look at places in the West, college dropouts start their companies. They get to work in companies if even if they don't have their own startups. And I think we need to start developing that open-mindedness, that there are certain skill sets which are more relevant in this new digital age. And as long as people have those skill sets, it's fine. They don't necessarily need to be backed by big degrees, which may or may not be relevant.
Right. Absolutely. Makes sense. Um, but see, one of the other things is that people in our country, now, whether it's corporate and academia, whether it's B2B, whether it's the public and private sector, people are still a bit reluctant on collaborations. Do you feel that collaboration is the key to success for small businesses in particular?
I think collaborations are absolutely pivotal for the growth of small medium enterprise in any country. Let's be honest, the government alone cannot do all of the heavy lifting, and at the same time, all the onus does not need to be on the private sector. When you
Right.
look at a small and medium business, one of the challenges that they have is sometimes they run into an issue whereby they don't have the muscle or the resources to buy what they need from outside, and they also don't have the capabilities or the core competences to make some things themselves. So it's like, I started off doing X, now I want to grow my business, I might have to do Y. But if I have to do Y, I can buy it or I can do it in-house. But it should not be an either or case. The middle ground there is partnerships, whereby people collaborate with each other and say that I have X skill set, yaar tumhara Y skill set hai. Why don't we join forces and do something whereby we do it as some sort of a partnership model, rather than either having to buy you out or buy your services or having to do everything in house. So definitely collaboration and partnership is the way for most small businesses.
And speaking of collaborations, now, have you seen any benefit personally or professionally ever since you've joined CxO Global Forum?
Absolutely. I think the forum does a few really good things. Of course, I'm relatively new, so sometimes I'm even getting to know some of the services I did not even know existed. But I think other than providing people exposure or a forum to voice, I think the networking opportunity is huge, and it's amazing. I think we have some really stellar people from across the country getting together on one platform and getting to know who they are, what they do, and that creates opportunities not just professionally but also personally, and it also provides inspiration for many young and upcoming professionals on people that they looked up to, maybe even for mentorship opportunities.
Right, absolutely. Now, we spoke about work, but what inspires you and what do you like doing in your free time, like on a personal note? So,
So the nature of my job is, highly social and extroverted. So
yeah.
what I like is a lot of me and alone time. I think that's the best way to put it. I like to be with family. I'm a bit of a book reader. I like to spend some time with family, get away on vacations. So for example, I'm busy with a products launch in Lahore. and my family is here accompanying me. So we just try to get every bit of time to do some sightseeing. Lahore is a great city with a lot of historical places,
Absolutely.
etc. And that's what I like to do. And yes, definitely, even at this age, I'm still, a fan of video games whenever I get the chance. So I
That's
love doing
really
that,
interesting.
or watching Netflix. Yeah.
That's amazing. Um, and so you spoke about books, right? Is there a personal favorite that you have, or a book that really resonates well with you?
I think, well, I mean, it would be difficult to immediately put, my finger on any one book, but one of the more recent books that I studied was economics. And I think that was really interesting to see how behavioral economics is becoming such a core and important vital part of how the West uses incentives and how human behavior to focus not just on product design but even erecting whole new businesses which are centered around incentives and how the human brain and psychology perceives reward and punishment mechanisms. So that was really interesting.
Right. We've got a question from the audience that are watching. How does he balance work and life? Any tips for youngsters who are starting their careers?
Um, I think that's a very interesting question. I think the word balance is either overused or inappropriately used, if I may use the right word. It's about different priorities for different times. What is important is to know that there could be some crazy phases at work, but as long as you know that that has not become all of your life, or all of your life is not centered around work, then what you can do is sometimes create spaces whereby you know that certain slots or periods in your life are just focused and are for family and work cannot come in there, and then there are other slots whereby you might be doing a lot of deep work which requires a lot of focus, etc. So for example, these days, while we are at the launch for our products in Lahore, what we do is we work really hard, but then over the weekend is totally switch off time, and then that's totally family time, and that cannot be invaded by anybody else.
Great, and thank you so much for sharing time with us today. Unfortunately, we've reached almost the end of our session today, but there's a couple of questions that I would still like to ask you. First one being, you've shared some great advice with us today, but what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
That's a good one. So I would say that one of the best pieces of advice that I received from my mentor, Mr. Waheed Sheikh, I really, really look up to him, has been that a lot of people have ideas and great strategies, but the only people who really do well are the ones who can execute. So excellence should always be in execution, and if you don't execute well, even a good strategy can go to waste. And if you execute it well, you can even probably get away with a bad
Yeah,
strategy.
agreed. 100%. And towards an end note, so what's in store now? What are some of the new ventures that you're looking at? And give us some sneak peek of the future at Food Panda. What are
I
the new
think
verticals that you're exploring?
so. In terms of the sneak peek, I think some of it is a bit hush, so you would appreciate that I won't be able to share all the deets. But I think for the forum, what I can share is that Food Panda is aggressively looking at going into areas other than restaurants. Of course, grocery delivery is very key, which includes doing work through some of our own dark store or own warehouse networks by the name of Pandamart. But then also trying to develop a marketplace concept for other shops and other retail in Pakistan, which is, the universe is around 700,000 shops odd, and there are a lot of opportunities for small and medium-sized retailers to develop an arm, a digital arm, which probably they could not do on their own, but use Food Panda and its consumers as a platform to reach out to.
Brilliant. All the best for it, Mr. Ibadur Rahman. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Anza. It was great speaking with you.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about Mr. Ibadur Rehman and his work at Food Panda, you can check out the link in the description. Please keep us updated with your comments and feedback. That's all for today.